Mr. Blümelhuber, I want you to address these ideas of image. If you were to ask people now what is the brand image of the European Union, it wouldn't be all that flattering. It would be that we're stuck in the doldrums or whatever. Is it possible to change a brand image? Mr. Blümelhuber.
So thank you. Before I answer your question, I would like to give a comment on your remarks. Crises come and go, but strong brands can live forever. So there are different kinds of brands. Of course, there are some brands that are open to change, and any brand is open to change based on some experiences of the consumers. But on the other hand side, brands also can be something very, very stable. And if you do communication and if you are responsible for the brand, then I think we have to work on both sides. On the explicit brand, so that's open to change, and also on the very implicit part of the brand image. And this is something very, very stable. So now I'd like to answer your question. I would like to give you 3 answers, and every answer has 3 ideas. So it's a matrix of 3 multiplied 3 ideas. So what is a brand? So to start very, very briefly, and there are different ideas of how we could perceive what brands are. I cherry-picked 3 of those ideas. First of all, I think that brands are always a compensation for something. We live in a world that's difficult. That's what we discussed now. And there are 2 European superstars who give us an idea about the world we live in. A Polish sociologist, so I think the biggest sociologist of our time, Zygmunt Bauman, and a French philosopher, Gilles Povetsky. And they label our times the liquid or the hypermodernity. So we live in times that change. And we live in times that change faster and faster and faster. And the times change faster as we, or you the politicians, could react on. And that's very difficult for everyone, and that's also very difficult for every citizen. And so living in a world that's faster and faster and faster, that needs for every single person kind of a compensation. And what is the compensation to something that is changing? This, of course, is something that is stable. And the most stable idea in our life is what some people call love. So what we need in a fast-changing world, we need more love. And so at the end, what brands deliver is kind of a love story. And what is love? There is an Austrian book. It's, I think, the most important book of the sadomaso literature. It's called Venus in Fur. And based on this book, some people define how long love lasts, and the answer is very disappointing because they say love only lasts one evidence, so one moment. Love is like a porn, so it's based on single moments. But every single moment a person has with a brand could be used to create something like love. So this means if I had to communicate Europe, the main question would be, what are the moments we have with the citizens, and what could we do in all those moments to create this image, to create such kind of love idea? And I come back to some of those ideas. The second idea, what a brand is, and this is, I think, very close to what most communication people do, a brand is like a frame. It's like a background. And I just want to show 2 pictures Daniel Kahneman has shown in 2002 when he received his Nobel Prize for Economics. He showed us 2 products or 2 gray squares. And this could be 2 politicians, this could be 2 countries, 2 regions, whatever. And of course now you, the communication people, you have now to sell this gray square. And then you say, oh, it's so difficult to sell a gray square. So we have to pimp it up. So pimp up Europe, pimp up a politician, pimp up the gray square, so you make it a little bit more beautiful. But then comes your boss, so the IT department or whatever, and says, no, we cannot pimp up what we have to sell what's there. So we sell gray squares. And so when we sell gray squares, we need now you, the great communication people. And what we do is now, we frame the square. So we put a different background behind it, so a frame around. And we frame a gray square, and this means that the perception now of the inner square is different. So we didn't change anything objectively on the inner square, but the perception of the inner gray square changed. And so the way how we communicate Europe changes, of course, the way how Europe is perceived. And some people overdo it a little bit. What they create is what I would call a donut brand. Yeah? So a donut brand is something very fat, a donut. You should not eat it. And you have all the fat and the sugar and everything, but there is a hole in the middle. Yeah? And lots of brands are exactly managed this way. So we put some sugar on it, some fat thing around it, but there is no core of it. So we should also manage the core. Yeah? It's not the blackberry on the top of the cake, it's what's inside the cake we have to deal with. And the third idea I want to give you what a brand could be is a brand is a platform where people meet. So a brand is not managed by politicians. A brand is not managed by brand managers. A brand is managed by how people behave. So in the end, in the case of Europe, the brand Europe is managed in the way how Europeans behave and how Europeans sell the idea of Europe to their friends. That's the idea, that's 3 ideas of branding, and now I come to 3 ideas of Europe. So what is Europe? Is Europe the anti-US? Is it a continent? Is it kind of a Disneyland for some kind of people? Or could we see Europe also as a brand, as kind of a compensation, as kind of an idea, as kind of a platform? And I'd like to give you a few ideas what it could mean that Europe is a compensation, an idea, and a platform. There was another study done in 2007 based on the data from the Eurobarometer, from Jimenez and some others. And they tried to identify which kinds of identification do people, so do European citizens have with their nation states, with the region, and with Europe. And they found out that there were 2 kinds of identification or identity. There is a cultural one, so this means that people identify with the culture, with the language, with symbols, with all the nice ideas, so that's more a brand from the heart. And then there is a more instrumental thinking, a more instrumental identity, where people argue in their self-interest. What does this brand give me, and what do I have to give in return? And what they found out based on this study is that Europe is this instrumental identity, and the nation or the region is more the heart thing. So this means one identity. Yeah, I have 7 minutes, that's what I've learned now. So that the one identity could now be the compensation for the other. So that perhaps Europe has a big advantage, and that's its size, and perhaps not so much the culture in the minds of the people. And that the region have the big advantage of being close to the citizens, and so to have more this love affair. I come back to this in a second. Another idea could be that Europe is an idea. An idea means a story. So Europe, or any brand, needs a story, and it should be a positive story. And if I ask my students, what positive story does Europe tell us? And they say, we don't know. There is no positive story we all share. But we all know lots of negative stories. And this is the power of attribution. Because what happens very often, the nice experiences we have are attributed perhaps to a region or a city, but the bad experiences we have, they're very often attributed to Europe. I'll make you an example. I arrived on the airport on Sunday, and we all Everyone who lives in Brussels know about this very stupid taxi system at this airport in Zaventem. So you arrive on a Sunday evening, you queue up for 1 hour to get a taxi. Then you're in the taxi and then you complain a little bit. I had to wait for 1 hour. And then the taxi driver really said, oh, that's because of Europe. So the bad thing, so I'm not German, I'm Bavarian. Yeah? Everything that's good in Bavaria is made in Bavaria. Everything that works bad in Bavaria is done in Brussels. Yeah? So negative things are attributed normally or very often in the minds of people to Europe and the good things to some regions. And I think this could and should perhaps change. And Europe could also serve as a platform where people share those good stories. And the good stories people share could be more than the UEFA Champions League and the Eurovision Song Contest. Yeah? This is what people now share. This is the actualities everyone shares, but perhaps you could manage a few more of those ideas. And now, the last 4 minutes I have, I would like to give you 3 suggestions. In this cherry picking, I just picked up 3 ideas how the brand Europe could be communicated. And the first idea I want to share with you is do not expect too much. It's difficult to brand Europe. Europe does not have a European dream people rely on. Mark Leonard once said, Europe's weapon is the law. It's the regulations everyone complains about. And the size, of course, is an advantage. Why not sell the size of Europe? Why not make the regulation more sexy? And you're the experts how to do it. And on the other hand side, we have the regions. And of course, the regions, they have the possibility to brand itself based on this positive side, based on those experiences. It's about experiences, or in other words, brands have a face. Strong brands have a face. Yeah? Uncle Ben's has a face, Facebook is about face, and Lacoste has the crocodile, so there's a face everywhere. And this also means brands have faces. And I come back to my idea in the beginning, the most important face of Europe, that's the people of Europe. And how can we manage that the people, the citizens, sell their idea and their brand? And what could we give them? How could we make them ready to fulfill the promise of Europe? And the question could be, what is the promise of Europe? And it's very difficult to answer it. I just want to give you one answer. Nicolas Negroponte once said, Europe is only strong in design. So how do we fulfill the promise of good design and high arts in Europe? This is what all my friends who do not come from Europe suggest as being totally Europe. Art house, cinema, museums, opera houses, and good design. So that's Europe for them. And then you ask my students, and then it says, how can this Europe have such a boring and ugly website? Yeah. It starts with these small ideas. Yeah, we want to have these big ideas, these promises fulfilled. And now comes my last idea, 2 minutes. A strong brand, Europe, and the strong regional brands could be built. I'm very sure about this. But this comes with a price tag. And the price tag is Germany, Belgium, Bulgaria, and even France. What does it mean? There is a very nice book published a few weeks ago by an Austrian guy who lives in Germany, Michael Ziegelwagner. Kaffee Anschluss, that's the title of the book. And it's his first book. And in the first chapter, in the first sentence, he asks, wer braucht Deutschland? Who needs Germany? And the second sentence is the answer. And the answer is nobody. Nobody needs Germany. Why should I need Germany as a German? I have Bavaria for this local cultural identity and perhaps for the big things that go on, yeah, where size matters, there is Europe. And as a management professor, I could come back to the good old Michael Porter, and everyone knows his famous saying, there's a stuck in the middle. And perhaps the nation state is a little bit stuck in the middle. So my last suggestion for you is, and I know it's a little bit long term, but you can work on it, get rid of the nation state. Thank you very much.